Demons, evil tentacles, aliens, undead, more tentacles, war, another war. Over the course of World of Warcraft's rich history, Azeroth has faced no end of disasters that have threatened its very existence. However, there's always been one group to rely on to lend a hand in fending off the various evils just around the corner, the Dragonflights. With the newest expansion putting them in the spotlight, now's as good a time as any to brush up on your knowledge of these winged saviours of Azeroth. There have been several books written on the matter, but if you don't have time for all that, stick around with me for the next 10 minutes and I'll give you a lowdown on who the Dragonflights are, their past, purpose, and how they'll land in the newest expansion. So the usual line of thinking is that the various Dragonflights were created by the Titans as a means to safeguard the different aspects of their creations. This, however, is not entirely true. Their real origin story is a bit more dramatic. One of the most important dragons in Warcraft's history goes by the name of Galakrond. Known as the father of dragons, this towering titanic beast was once a powerful and benevolent leader of the early proto-dragons, until one day he wasn't. Something changed in him and things really went downhill. He started cannibalizing his fellow dragons, which created undead beasts under his command, whilst also warping and mutating his form. But a few plucky drakes didn't like the idea of being cannibalized and decided instead to stand against the monstrous threat.
When the fate of our kind was at stake, we five overcame the instincts of fear and self-preservation and united to battle the Leviathan.
Aided by Tira Watcher, tasked with defending the Titans' creations, the five dragons brought low Galakrond. In their hour of victory, Tyr chose to go behind the backs of other keepers and asked the Titans to make these dragons the defenders of Azeroth. As you may note by now, Tyr is a touch sneaky. He may also have been the cause of Galakrond's drastic change, although that's not been fully confirmed, but he seems the sort. Anyway, the Titans agreed. They empowered these five dragons and tasked them with defending Azeroth. This also granted them ability to take mortal forms, which, aside from being a pretty neat power, would also allow them to influence and play key roles in the affairs of the mortal races. These dragons were Alexstrasza, Nozdormu, Ysera, Malygos, and Neltharion, and they'd played a big role in Azeroth's history going forward, for better or worse. So that's the actual origin, not quite created by Galakrond, not quite created by the Titans. In truth, it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. But let's take a look at these five dragons and what responsibilities were bestowed upon them. So first and foremost, we have Alexstrasza, who became the aspect head of the Red Dragonflight. Known as Lifebinder, Alexstrasza and her brood were tasked by Eonar, the Titan of life and nature, to safeguard and protect all living creatures of the world. Alongside Alexstrasza is her younger sister Ysera the Dreamer, leader of the Green Dragonflight. Eonar also took interest in Ysera, choosing her to watch over the wilds of the world as well as the Emerald Dream. Now, the Emerald Dream is in itself a huge and sprawling topic for another day. For now, just think of the red and green dragonflights as two sides of a coin, protecting life and nature in the conscious and unconscious worlds. Up next, we've got Nozdormu, head of the Bronze Dragonflight. He piqued the interest of the head honcho of the Titan pantheon, Aman'Thul. The High Father gave Nozdormu and his lineage the task of protecting time itself and the ever-changing web of fates. From here, henceforth, he'd be known as the Timeless One. A more cryptic task than others, but those who've invested themselves in Azeroth will know that time is very far from linear in the series, with the new timelines and diverging possibilities frequently opening up and tangling with each other. Nozdormu would certainly have his work cut out for him. Malygos would become the leader of the Blue Dragonflight. With a penchant for the arcane, the Spellweaver would be responsible for guarding magic and hidden arcanum. The task was given by Norgannon, the keeper of magic and lore, and Malygos would take his role very seriously. He'd end up declaring war on the mortal races who were carefreely slinging spells with little respect or regard for the rules and regulations. But we'll get onto that shortly. And finally, we have Neltharion. With everything above ground handled, Neltharion and his black dragonflight were responsible for the earth and all the deep dark places that resided within it. Azeroth is a big place, so there was a lot to look after here, but Khazgarath, the Titan Forger of Worlds, figured Neltharion was up to the task. So So we've established the origin and purpose of each dragonflight. Between then and now, there's quite a few millennia of stories and misadventures, with plenty of dragon involvement. But let's just highlight a few key points, and we'll stick with the black dragonflight for now because, well, their story is a doozy. So Neltharion, known as the Earth Warden, wasn't the biggest fan of his new line of responsibilities and would turn on the other aspects during the War of the Ancients. Discarding his status as the protector of Azeroth's undergrounds, he became the aspect of death. And while that does sound a lot cooler, it pretty much solidified his status as a bad guy. He even changed his name to Deathwing. No one with good intentions does something like that, do they? It turns out he wasn't entirely to blame, however, as he'd been corrupted by the old gods' whisperings. Like the Emerald Dream, we don't have the time to go deep into the old gods right now, but we can just assume that if something bad has happened, is happening, or will happen in Azeroth, these tentacle beasts of the beyond are usually your main culprit. So Neltharion became Deathwing. He stole a portion of the other aspects of power via the Dragon Soul and then boom! Burst through the earth and turned Azeroth inside out during the Cataclysm expansion. After a few years of pain and suffering, the aspect of death was brought low by the heroes of Azeroth, aided by other dragon aspects. The Black Dragonflight would live on, however helmed by Deathwing's son, the Black Prince Rathian, who's looking to redeem his brethren and undo all bad things his father did, which again, was a lot. On the topic of going a bit unhinged and waging war on all mortal life, let's touch back with Malygos. Whilst not as deranged and destructive as Deathwing, Malygos had a big bone to pick with the mortal races and their affinity for magic powers. So he declared war on all of them, just like that. This didn't go down too well with some of the Blue Dragonflight, who staged a coup against him, eventually bringing him down in the Eye of Eternity. One of the key players of this was Kalagos, who'd go on to become the new leader of the Blue Dragonflight. Meanwhile, in many other times and places, Nozdormu would manage and orchestrate all different timeline crossovers and breaches across history. Very much a figure who's always there while simultaneously absent, Nozdormu played a key role in much of Azeroth's more confusing moments. He was also instrumental in the defeat of Deathwing, binding the Worldbreaker in a moment in time to ensure the killing blow could never be reversed. And now onto Ysera and her green dragonflight. And to be completely frank, she's had a bit of a rough time. While spending most of her time safeguarding the Emerald Dream, the realm was frequently corrupted by Emerald Nightmare. Yeah, you guessed it, the old gods up to their usual tricks. How predictable. She bravely fought off most of the corruption, but alas, succumbed to it in Legion, and became a baddie for a bit before she was put down by Tyrande Whisperwind. And finally, an aspect and dragonflight that wasn't constantly involved in schemes and scandal. Alexstrasza and her red dragons. She's the only aspect that players haven't fought, which is a refreshing change of pace. And over the course of history, she's been out and about saving the world, aiding mortals, and generally, just being a good cookie. She's acted as a wise and compassionate leader for her brood, and acted in an advisory role to the other aspects. She, along with the other aspects, were key in bringing down Deathwing and healing Azeroth from the stab wound left by the mad titan Sargeras. Although these feats don't come without sacrifices, with the aspects sacrificing their powers for the greater good and going into the Dragonflight expansion, they're as mortal and vulnerable as they've ever been. So here we are in the present, with World of Warcraft Dragonflight ahead of us. You're all caught up with the past and purpose of each of the Dragonflight. But how useful is that knowledge going to be going forwards? Well, given that we're returning to the Dragon Isles, not to mention the name of the expansion, it's safe to assume the Dragonflight will be popping up all over the place. And we'll surely be seeing a lot more Alexstrasza in particular. As one of the closest confidants and ambassadors between the Horde, Alliance and the Dragons, we'll be seeing a lot of the Red Dragonflight aspect in Dragon Isles. Well, I hope so anyway. We like Alexstrasza and don't want ill to befall her. Although, given the history of the other aspects, we wouldn't want to rule it out. As for her sister, Ysera, well, she may have been slain, but her story didn't end there. She lives on, to a degree, in Ardenweald in the Shadowlands, although she's not much help to the Green Dragonflight on Azeroth, while she's living it up in the afterlife. Her affairs back home are handled by her daughter, Marithra. It's important to note, however, that Marithra isn't the de facto leader of the Dragonflight. It's safe to assume this power dynamic and her role will play an important role within the story of the expansion. As the most enigmatic of the aspects, we don't really know where we'll land with Nozdormu. While he's still the leader of the Bronze Dragonflight, most of the day-to-day is dealt with by Chronomu, better known in her sweet little gnome's getup as Chromie. As the master of all the timelines, however, Nozdormu has seen his own corrupt failure and demise. Whether that inevitably ends up kicking off with the expansion or not, well, we'll just have to wait and see. We know it's coming, but we don't know when. The Blue Dragons are alive and active in the expansion, with the new leader, Kalagos, making his new perch within the Isles. Being the aspect of the arcane and knowledge, there's a lot for him to delve into and get his snout stuck into. He's interested in finding the archives of Sindragosa, the former consort of Malygos, turned bony beast of death by the Lich King. What will he find there? Probably trouble. All sorts of trouble. And finally, what's in store for the Black Dragonflight? Quite a lot, in fact. As Rathian has travelled to the Black Isles already, realised the looming threat, and even warned the Alliance in advance. To make matters worse, his leadership hangs by a thread as long-lost son of Deathwing, Sabalion, has returned into the picture after spending most of his life skulking around Outland. Their struggle for control of the Black Dragonflight will surely play a key part in unfolding the story of the expansion, one of the many intertwining interests between the different Dragonflight. So expect plenty of draconic presences, hellfire, intrigue, and probably an old god or two, as they're always lurking just out of sight. And that's pretty much all you need to know about the dragon aspects that have been pivotal since the earliest days of Azeroth. I hope the knowledge serves you well in the Dragon Isles. Happy hunting, adventurers!